The Atlanta Falcons had the MVP, the best offense in the league, a 25-point Super Bowl lead, and then it all vanished. The 2016 Falcons were 17 minutes away from a Super Bowl title. Instead, it became a cautionary tale. This is the story of how one of the greatest offenses in NFL history suffered the biggest collapse the game has ever seen, and how that one night in February destroyed the franchise for years to come. After the 2012 NFC Championship appearance, the Falcons were a team in limbo. They still had Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, but years of mediocre defense, bad offensive line play, and uninspired coaching left them stuck. But that all changed. Before the Falcons took over the NFL in 2016, they made two hires that changed everything. First, Dan Quinn. Quinn came to Atlanta in 2015 with a clear vision to build a fast and physical defense. The same formula that turned the Seahawks into Super Bowl champions. He wasn't just some assistant. Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator of the Legion of Boom, one of the most dominant units in NFL history. From 2013 to 2014, the Seattle defense is ranked number 1 in points and yards allowed, and they embarrassed Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. Quinn brought that culture of aggression and speed to Atlanta, but he wasn't alone. Enter Kyle Shanahan, the son of Super Bowl winning coach Mike Shanahan. Kyle had been building a resume as one of the smartest offensive minds in the league. He had already turned Matt Schaub into a Pro Bowler with the Houston Texans, helped RG3 win Offensive Rookie of the Year in Washington, and even coached Johnny Manziel briefly in Cleveland before leaving after one disastrous season with the Browns. It was clear, Shanahan was a schematic genius, and 2016 was the perfect storm. A healthy quarterback, a dominant receiver, and full control over the offense. Together, Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan brought their separate philosophies, elite defense, and innovative offense to a team loaded with potential. And what followed was pure fireworks.
His third NFL game. Here's third down. Ryan throws to the end zone. Might be wondering why the crowd was so excited. They were just putting it on a tee for Devontae Freeman. And it is a touchdown.
Atlanta led the NFL in points scored, with over 34 points per game. During the regular season, they dropped 40-plus points 5 times. They beat the Panthers by 15, crushed the Rams 42-14, put up 38 on Arizona, and they even handled a tough Denver defense with a win on the road. And Matt Ryan finally proved he could lead the team. He threw for over 4,900 yards, 38 touchdowns, and finished with a 117.1 passer rating, the 8th highest of all time. He was named NFL MVP and finally silenced the critics. Julio Jones continued to be dominant, even while battling injuries. He put up over 1,400 yards and embarrassed entire secondaries. In Week 4 against Carolina, he had 300 yards receiving in one game, one of only 6 players in NFL history to do that. They also added Mohamed Sanu, a reliable veteran receiver from Cincinnati, and Taylor Gabriel, who brought speed and shiftiness in the slot. In the backfield, a two-headed monster. Devontae Freeman, who had over 1,000 yards rushing, and Tevin Coleman. The offensive line stayed healthy. Play calling was unpredictable. This wasn't just any good offense. It was generational. Now let's flip to the other side of the ball. The defense wasn't elite by any means, but it was young and fast. Deion Jones was a rookie linebacker with sideline-to-sideline speed. Grady Jarrett was beginning to emerge as a force up front, and Keanu Neal, a hard-hitting safety, brought swagger to the secondary. But the Falcons also had a guy who led the NFL in sacks that year, and his name is Vic Beasley. Beasley finished that season with 15.5 sacks. They gave up points, sure, but they also created chaos. And with the offense scoring so quickly, they didn't need to be perfect. The Falcons finished the regular season with an 11-5 record, winning the NFC South. They earned the number 2 seed, and their Super Bowl run was on. Their first matchup was against the Seattle Seahawks, a team that had playoff experience. They even went to the Super Bowl a season ago and should have won, but Pete Carroll decided to make one of the worst calls of all time. But they were physical, disciplined, and battle-tested. But Atlanta dominated, 36-20. Matt Ryan threw 3 touchdowns. The defense held Seattle to under 100 yards rushing while forcing 2 interceptions, one by Deion Jones and another by Ricardo Allen. Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman scored, and the Falcons looked unstoppable. The NFC Championship was against the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers was red hot. He had just pulled off one of the most miraculous throws ever in Dallas the week before. But once again, Atlanta steamrolled the opposition. The Falcons jumped out to a 24-point halftime lead, a deficit too big for even Aaron Rodgers to overcome. The final score was 44-21. Matt Ryan had 392 passing yards and 5 total touchdowns, and Julio Jones had 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 73-yard catch and run that looked unfair. It took 18 years, but the Falcons were finally going back to the Super Bowl. only their second appearance in franchise history. This time, they weren't underdogs. February 5th, 2017, it was the Atlanta Falcons versus the New England Patriots. Matt Ryan versus Tom Brady. And for 2.5 quarters, the Falcons dominated. By late in the third quarter, Atlanta led 28-3, and Matt Ryan was perfect. The defense had also picked off Brady and returned it for a touchdown. They also sacked Brady 5 times. Everything was going right until it wasn't. What happened next was the biggest collapse in NFL history. All they had to do was run the ball, burn the clock, and make no major mistakes. But Kyle Shanahan kept calling aggressive plays. On one drive, instead of running the ball 3 times and kicking a field goal to go up 11, they passed. Matt Ryan was sacked, then came a holding penalty, and they were pushed out of field goal range. It was a disaster of clock management. Even former players and analysts were stunned. A field goal would have all but iced the game, and the Patriots took full advantage. Tom Brady had the ball at his own 9-yard line with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. Everyone already knew what was going to happen. Quick passes, no huddle, and surgical precision. Julian Edelman made an insane triple caught reception in traffic. The Falcons' defense was exhausted, and they began to crumble. With less than a minute left, the Patriots tied it 28-28. It was the first Super Bowl to ever go to overtime. And after the coin toss, the moment it landed in New England's favor, it was already over. Brady drove them down the field. James White dove across the goal line, and the final score was 34-28. The Falcons were stunned, and Atlanta fans were heartbroken. Kyle Shanahan left that offseason to coach the 49ers, and the offense regressed, and the defense never became elite. In 2017, they returned to the playoffs, but blew a lead to the Eagles in the divisional round. In 2018, they went 7-9. In 2019, they went 7-9 again. In 2020, they blew multiple double-digit leads. In a Todd Gurley accidental touchdown, they gave the Lions a win. Dan Quinn was fired, Julio Jones was traded to the Titans, and Matt Ryan aged out and was traded to the Colts. And just like that, the Falcons Super Bowl window was slammed shut. The 2016 Falcons were one of the most electric teams ever. They had everything: talent, speed, coaching, and even an MVP quarterback. They were up 28-3, and they still lost. But this wasn't just any loss. It was a trauma, one this franchise has never recovered from. And until they do, that number, 28-3, will haunt the city of Atlanta forever.